The inaugural Africa Shared Value and ESG Summit gets underway in Nairobi, Kenya today. The summit serves as a platform to unite the concepts of shared value and environmental, social and governance principles, as well as fostering economic transformation in Africa. More from Kate Onsati, Operations Lead and Kenya Representative for Shared Value Africa.
We call this our flagship event. We are in the business of advocating for shared value. For some organizations, they know it as sustainability. Others have different names for it. But based on SDG 17, it is not about working in silos, but it's about working together. So, since we have African problems, right, there are organizations, as we speak, that are offering solutions to these African problems. Why don't we bring them together so that we can learn from one another, create partnerships, and actually take the African agenda forward? So, as our flagship event, this is actually our 7th year running the summit. We have previously been running it as the Africa Shared Value and Leadership Summit, but this time we now joined hands with ESG Africa. Right? It's all about you're doing good business and you should be able to report it. Why don't we come together, talk about people who are doing good business, talk about how you can measure it and report it. So that's what our summit this year is about.
So what are some of the issues that will be tackled over the next 2 days?
Guided by the SDGs, some of the major problems that are facing the African continent include inclusivity in health, in healthcare, gender equality. How can we actually make it implementable, right? And then looking at Africa, its geopolitical landscape, we are at a very great advantage to actually impact the world by how we take advantage of our youth dividend and our geopolitical standing to actually build prosperity in our societies. So those are some of the key aspects that we're going to be discussing over these 2 days. What is the situation on the ground from different business leaders? What can be done? What are the challenges you're facing? What are the solutions you've come up with? So those are just some of the things that we're going to look at across different themes.
So you mentioned that this will be the 7th edition. Judging from last year, what would you say are some of the notable achievements and outcomes?
So what we did is that last year we had something called Shared Value Series, right? We wanted to make this big, and so we had a Shared Value Series, a kind of a roadshow across Africa where we're bringing together different business leaders across Ghana, across Rwanda, South Africa and Kenya to talk about shared value, because that is our mandate. Advocate for shared value, and that it's not just something you talk about, it's something you can do as a business strategy. So there are some businesses who are actually already practicing shared value, but they don't understand that this is something they're doing and this is something they can amplify. So talking about all this, raising awareness among industry leaders, business leaders, and even entrepreneurs. Understand that you as a business have the capacity to offer the solutions to the African continent and make a profit out of it. Or you can say, do good while doing good business. Right? So raise awareness about that. And now, after all that advocacy, after all that, that was the Shared Value series, we're now bringing all these people together. We have business leaders and even networks that were able to form because of this series, all coming together to share their stories, to share some of the implementations that have happened. Because if you look at the program from our summit website, you'll see that we have given a lot of time for case studies, for knowledge sharing, so that different entities can now share their stories about the challenges that they have met in businesses and what they have done about it. So that is one of the major outcomes that we want to showcase through this summit.
And what are your hopes for this edition of the summit?
I'm hoping personally I'm hoping that it will not just be another talk show. We don't want you to come, listen to people talk, get a chance to talk and ask a question, whatever burning question you may have, and go back home with nothing to show for it. 6 months from now, based on what you learned from the summit, what have you done about it? Because that is how we can move Africa forward. As the theme of the summit says, we're all about empowering Africa's future. We're not about talking about Africa's future. We're about talking about the challenges and the solutions and what are you going to do about the knowledge that you're going to gain from this.
That was Kate Onsati, who's lead and Kenya representative for Shared Value Africa. She was speaking to Nhlanhla Mahlangu. It's time to find out what's in your news headlines.